Renee. And Gil, of course, is still setting up. But hello there and happy Saturday. My name is Renee from the Rich Relationship Refuge. And I want to encourage you to come on here with us live and share it and tell your family and friends. And, I'm going to scoot over. Okay, I get it now, baby. I'm sorry. So, hi, my name is Renee.
And I'm Gil from the Rich Relationship Refuge.
And we are here, and this is our 12 o'clock live with you all, and we're excited to be with you. And
yeah.
And of course, I'm trying to get closer to Gil. Mwah. We love you all. We hope you all are having a good Saturday. Today, we are going to talk about chapter 10 from the book, The Singles Blueprint for Dating and Marriage. And if you joined us last week, I'm sorry for all the calamity. We were having some issues.
Yeah, when you try to do something new
that you've never done.
For a change and trying to, bring a different experience, and sometimes it don't quite work out the way you had planned it.
It was better in our imagination. Are all the cameras on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I hope you guys actually got something out of what we did. It had a little bit of technical difficulty, as they like to say, but we
were talking and there wasn't no sound.
Yeah, and that was unfortunate, but we still got comments.
Yes, we did, and we got feedback, and we had questions. And can we start off with answering one of the questions we got from our community?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to start off answering one of the questions we got from our community, from one of the beautiful people in our TikTok community. The question was, what do you do when you have started off the wrong way? What do you do when you're on the wrong track? And I thought that was a really good question. Mm-hmm. So I said I would make a video. We would talk about that. And so I just want to start off by saying we all start off doing things the wrong way, like we were just talking about with the video, and one of the things, we were watching another video with one of my sister. We were watching it that we did when we were in Alabama. It was a message about me doing a backsplash with grout, and I had all these plans of how I was going to do it, and I did it wrong, and I messed up, and it was terrible. Gil kept encouraging me, but the thing that taught me was, and the thing that I want to encourage the person who asked that question, and I'm going to go back and I'll tag her in the comments. Mm-hmm. But that's the purpose of grace. That's the purpose of salvation. That's the purpose of forgiveness. When you do the wrong thing, hi, thanks for joining us. When you do the wrong thing, when you start off the wrong way, you stop, you repent, you ask God to forgive you. And if there's a person that's involved that you need to ask them to forgive you, go to them and say, hey, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. Now, I'm not saying that if you think somebody is mad at you, you go to them and say that. That's not what it says. If you have an ought against your brother, go to your brother. Not if you think your brother has an ought against you. Because sometimes we go to people with things that really are us and it has nothing to do with them.
Right.
And so if you have offended them, you go to them and you ask for forgiveness. So that's what you do when you're on the wrong track, when you've done the wrong thing, when you've done the human thing. You repent, you turn away, you ask forgiveness, and you learn new habits and practice something different.
I think about, you remember when you were growing up and you were either playing a game or something outside, or you were at school playing something or a board game or whatever. But what came to mind was, you remember something called a do-over?
Yeah.
If you are playing something or doing something, you're like, hold up, wait. I messed up. I get a do-over.
Yeah.
Well, you actually get a do-over when it comes to mistakes that you may make in relationships. Sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes people won't give you that grace or that forgiveness and give you that understanding that you need to get past it. But you can actually go to them and say, don't say I get a do-over. Say I made a mistake. I own it, especially if it wasn't malicious or if it wasn't intentional. If you literally made a mistake, say, hey, I made a mistake and I want to make it right. And, in our day and time now that we're living in, I think sometimes people have a problem with taking ownership of when they make mistakes or
Bad
they
choices.
do things wrong, or even if you made an intentional mistake. Mm-hmm. But guess what? And if you own it and go back onto it, go back over it, I think people are looking to forgive. I really believe that.
If you ask them to.
Yeah, I really believe that, because we always want to put the best or believe the best in people. I believe, you know, in our world, in our day and times that you look at, you can turn on the news or turn on television or whatever, and you can see constant negativity or negative energy or however you want, toxic behavior, however you want to describe it and see it. But guess what? It takes more effort and energy to do the opposite, you
Right.
know, like forgive someone or take ownership of something that you may have made a mistake in, um, and get over, you
Right.
know, and try to make restitution or make amends or whatever. And sometimes you don't get that opportunity,
Right.
you know, unfortunately, because sometimes people don't necessarily want to, what's the word I'm looking for?
Reconcile.
Reconcile. They
Yeah.
don't want to
And that's
reconcile if
okay.
it's beyond that. But
Yeah.
as you still have a duty to make ownership of it. So
Yeah.
that's something that we wanted to answer. That's how I see it.
Yeah. And I think it's important that we understand that there's a difference between a mistake and a bad choice.
Right.
A mistake is I spilled the milk and I knocked it over.
Unintentional.
Right.
Yeah.
So a mistake is an unintentional error. A bad choice is you knowingly knew that you were doing the wrong thing and you still did it anyway.
Right.
And I think that is something we have to be mindful of. We have to, we talk about living a life with fear of regret. So you want to make sure that making mistakes, that's going to happen. You're going to knock stuff over. You know, you're going to do things that maybe you may have said something or offended somebody that you didn't know it. You didn't mean to. But we got to be more conscious of not willfully doing things that we know are going to hurt the people who we love and care about and the people that we're in a relationship with.
Yep. And I think it's all about motivation.
It is.
What was your motivation for
Your
doing,
motive, yeah.
or even whether it was a mistake or even if it was intentional, what was your motivation for whatever happened? You know, and that's the part that you really have to own. There's a thing called intentionality or malicious motives. When you intentionally set out to do wrong against someone,
That's a character issue.
that's definitely one of those things that you have to really take a hard look in the mirror and say, why am I like this? Why am I doing this? Because, and especially if you're looking at it from a relationship standpoint, that can be even more challenging because you're going to be prone to make those same mistakes over and over and
Same
over
choices,
again.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we appreciate you guys coming to
Thank
hang
you
out
for
with us on
joining
this
us today.
Saturday. Yeah,
If you're watching now, if you're watching later, put in the comments where you're coming in from and how you found out about us. Let us know that. We want to know that.
Yep, and questions, comments. This is an engaged, interactive thing. You know, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago or a week ago. No, 2 weeks ago. We had people interacting
And asking
in the
questions.
community, and that was awesome. You know, because yes, we can get up here and talk about the things, whether it's in the book of our own experience of being together for 35 years, going into 36 this month. But everybody has their own experience, and you can
you
learn
have
from something.
questions.
Yeah, and we can definitely learn from you guys as you put things in the chat, and we'll respond to it. Renee responds to the comments a lot more than I do. I read them, but Renee is like, she's on it.
This is my thing. You guys are
Yes,
my people.
yes. So, but what we're talking about, if you just joined us over the past 8 weeks or 6 weeks, roughly, a few weeks, I'll just put it that way, a while. We've been going through the chapters in the Singles Blueprint, the book that we wrote last year. Was it last
This
year?
year.
This year. Yeah, this year, and basically focusing on the singles and even some of the behavior and some of the things that you can hopefully empower you with, some of the tools and skills that we always talk about on the Rich Relationship Refuge, whether it's the podcast or the other videos. We want to help empower. We want to join a community of like-minded individuals trying to get better at relationships.
Yeah.
Man, I cannot believe that, Steve. Are you really in Scotland? Come on, man.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Man, what time is it in Scotland? Boy, you are dedicated. I appreciate you just jumping on and looking and hanging out with us. Put comments in there,
If
Steve.
you have questions, things you want to know, why do we do this? We do this because we realize that after working with couples for 19 years, we work with engaged couples, we work with married couples, but we realize, why not be proactive? Why wait until someone is already engaged to start talking to them about marriage? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to be proactive and help the people in our community and the people in our world and around the world have an understanding of a realistic understanding of what healthy, God-honoring, fulfilling relationships look like. And so we're right now going through the Singles Blueprint, but as Gil mentioned, we have another book. It's called Our Marital Code to Oneness. We wrote it during the pandemic with 21 other couples, and we created the workbook. And so we're going to go through the workbook for the couples next. And I just want to encourage you all. I know that right now everybody like wants us to come in February and do love stuff and talk about relationships. But unfortunately, most couples by January, if they have already struggled all year, they're getting a divorce in January. So we want to be proactive and encourage you that if you feel like you're at the end of your rope, please do something different. Join us, reach out to us, become a part of our community. We have over 1,600 videos on YouTube to kind of answer some of your questions. And if it doesn't answer it, put the questions in the comments in the feed and we will answer them.
So we are actually going to be talking about commitment or engagement.
Which one comes first?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Actually, when you think about what the word commitment and engagement are, sometimes people make the two synonymous. They make them two, they're exactly the same. But in the context of relationships, you think about when you go forward towards an engagement, there's some things that should have already happened long before you got the ring and you came up with the perfect
Color
proposal
scheme, and you knew who was going to be in the
before
wedding
you
and how many
start
tables.
planning it and all those things. And that's what the chapter in the book is talking about, is knowing the difference between the two. So we're going to start out talking about commitment and engagement. And as you listen to these things, you tell us which one do you think comes first, and we already going to say, well, I think commitment comes way before
Well,
an engagement.
and if you think about it, it would have to. Because if I get engaged to someone I'm not committed to.
People do that.
I
We've
know.
seen it.
But it's like putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing as if we give ourselves away to someone before we're married, is the same thing as expecting that engagement will come after commitment. So engagement, so from our perspective and for what we believe and what we wrote in our book is that commitment has to come first. And I want to just add something else is that men control commitment, women control intimacy. Renee, why do you say that? Because you cannot make a man choose you. He has to choose you. And because you give someone your body, that is not going to make them commit to you and it's not going to make them choose you. So for those of us who may think that, oh, I'm going to make him commit to me, I'm going to give him my body.
Right.
That has never worked and it won't work because men control commitment, women control intimacy. No, yes, they can choose you. You have to respond, but initially, the initiator of commitment starts with the man.
And I think about when we were dating, before we even got married, we started doing the commitment stuff long before I said or asked Renee to marry me. That don't. I thought she was getting ready to say, you didn't ask me to, but that's a whole nother conversation. We'll talk about that later. But the one thing that you have to think about, a key ingredient when it comes to the commitment side, is that emotional investment that actually has to happen, not just with the woman. Women are naturally more emotional creatures, not meaning like creatures than men are. We have I would always say, an emotional deficiency that we have to learn to navigate other emotions other than lust and anger especially when it comes to relationships. So when you think about when I made a commitment to Renee, we had already talked about a lot of things. We talked about some of the things we're going to share with you today, a lot of the things that were important, not only to us as individuals, but to us as a couple. And that's where we came to a mutual agreement on. This is all the things that you should actually be doing while you are dating.
One of the things that people keep saying about this book is, man, that book makes you look at yourself.
Yep.
It makes you examine yourself because you have to. You cannot give yourself away if you don't know who you are. So that's an important part of what this is to remember. And even we work with couples, there's no such thing as marriage problems.
Or relationship
There's
problems.
Individual problems that you bring into the relationship, you bring into the marriage, and the other person or the marriage or the relationship gets the blame. And so we want to help you do the heavy lifting and start looking at yourself individually before you go into a relationship.
Yep. And so you also have to think about when it comes to commitment, you actually have to be all in. There's nothing worse than being in a relationship with someone that is so passive or so lackadaisical or nonchalant or indifferent.
Or not invested.
That's the first part that we talk about, not just being emotionally invested, but invested in you and pursuing the relationship with you as you would want it to be. We went and seen a movie And there was a scene in the movie where a person was asked to date another person, and it wasn't because they were invested, not emotionally, but they weren't in at all. They were doing this out of a favor. So how long do you think that relationship would last if the other person found out that you dating me out of pity, or you dating me because someone else told you to do it?
How many of y'all think y'all know what the movie was?
We ain't gonna plug it, but it's pretty
I'm gonna
popular right
plug
now.
it.
It's pretty popular right now.
It was so good. We
Yeah,
saw
it's
Wicked.
with this green. Shit, no. Well, we gonna call it that, but there's something in there, and that just stuck out to me as we were not even looking at the movie, but listening to that, and I was thinking about it like, wow, how can you really get invested or be committed to a person when only one person is committed?
Yeah.
It's impossible. It is
It
not
takes
gonna
two.
last. Yeah, absolutely.
Like forgiveness only takes one, and reconciliation takes two. A commitment takes both people being invested and equally being available and being present. What is someone saying?
So we appreciate you guys. We apologize. Just came into the live stream, and I'm wondering what is the theme of this. The theme that we're actually talking about is commitment or engagement in a relationship. We're profiling the book that we wrote, The Singles Blueprint to Dating and Marriage, specifically targeted at the singles out there, because even when we were growing up, we really didn't have a good foundation to build upon when it came to dating. You think about, most people figure it out as they're doing it. Well, how about we give you some things to think about as you're going into it, or even as you're in it right now, to start thinking about, based on our relationship. We got married at an early age. We were 21 and 21.
Yeah, we were
Yeah, we were
21.
21, and we've been together 36 years now. So there's some things that we learned, trial and error, some things that we went through that we were like, wow.
Yeah.
Now, and so what we did was we put it down in a few books, and we've been working with couples for 19 years. And so that's what we're talking about here now. It's just
Commitment.
one topic
Yeah,
that we
chapter
profiled
10.
in the book, chapter 10 of the book. So
And if you want to get the book, you can go to Barnes and Noble and you can get the book. You can actually go into your local Barnes and Noble store and ask them to order it, or you can go to barnesandnoble.com and they can order it for you. The more people that go into the stores and ask for it, the more likely they are to carry it in your local store. So thanks in advance for your help.
yeah, we appreciate that. And so the other one that you talk about, think about when you're dating. When you're dating someone and you're going down the road to hopefully get to the engagement, you're making a lifelong commitment. We both came from married. I came from a divorced home. Renee's parents were never married, so we really didn't have a good example of what that looked like long term. So
Day to day.
yeah, day to day. So we had to figure a lot of things out at a young age that we got right, got wrong. But one thing that we really are trying to do now is do it differently and share those experiences with the community and all the people that we've talked to over the past years about, here are some of the things that you need to think about while you're actually going through the dating process.
Yes.
And one of them is that lifelong, think of it as a lifelong promise. A promise is a little bit more than just kind of like an agreement.
And it's a covenant. When you decide to get married to someone, it is not a contract, it is a covenant. And the difference between a contract and a covenant is that a contract is based on performance and a covenant is based on a promise to other person and to God. So that makes it really different.
And Ambassador Smith, I appreciate you saying that, and we agree wholeheartedly that the best thing that you actually do is placing God as in the number one position.
Yes, he has
in
to
your
be.
relationship. We always say that if the person who invented marriage and commitment and relationship, we think he knows how it's supposed to
I
work.
think so.
And we, as followers of Christ, we actually are using the Bible as our guideline. So that is got to be the foundation in which you're actually building these things upon any relationship, especially the marital relationship.
Because a part of it is a lot of the things that you're expected to be able to do in a long term, in a marriage, or even in a committed relationship requires things that don't come natural to us as just human. You may be nice and you may be goody, but there are some things that are going to be tested. You need the fruits of the spirit: love, joy, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, meekness, and self-control. Because apart from that, you're going to be doing in your own energy. And that's what makes relationships less likely to succeed, because in your own energy, we change like we change our clothes. But when you have the Holy Spirit living on the inside of you, he explains to you the importance of being a person of your word and character and integrity, all of those things are a part of the nature of God being in us, and that's what makes us more suitable for and more beneficial in a relationship with somebody
Oh
else.
yeah, absolutely. And I love one of the quotes that Renee put in the actual book, and I have the book, and I wanted to read it specifically because it sets up everything that we've been talking about prior to this when it talks about commitment. I love the quote: "Let your why drive your what, or you may lose your way in the how." I'm gonna read that again. Let your why drive your what, or you may lose your way in the how. So that's when you think about the differences when it comes to engagement and commitment. The whys are the things that we just talked about that we kind of gave you, and Ambassador Smith gave the last one that we were talking about, is putting that foundational principle as the bedrock of your relationship, which is God first. And if you do that, if you don't do that, you have to ask yourself, what are you putting first? You have to ask yourself, what book are you working from? What experience are you working from? What person are you getting your information from? And do they have the receipts to back up what they've been telling you?
Yeah, that is really important because I know that there are so many places you can go and gather information and you can watch and you can listen to. We didn't just start doing this yesterday or last week or last year. And our motivation for doing what we do is it's what God has called us to do, and it's something we're passionate about because we realize it's in a world where everyone is telling you to just do what you want to do and be led by your emotions. There needs to be a voice of reminding you that you have to be led by the Holy Spirit. You
Yeah.
have to let the fruits of the Spirit. You have to let God's principles and His ways govern you, not just in your words but in your actions. So a lot of times people sound really good, but then when you go back and look at the history of what they are, have they been practicing it? So I think it's important that not that you just have a good image, but that you have an image that has evidence of it, that there's time gone by where you've said this and you're actually doing it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So those are just some of the things that we've listed and we talked about in the book. But we're talking about when it comes to an engagement, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people put the engagement before the commitment, and then they wonder why things kind of come loose later in the relationship. Because you
Give
think
an
about,
example, baby, of like the commitment. How I can how you knew what you showed, what you did that showed me you were committed to me before we even got engaged.
I think one of them was when I made a commitment to Renee. It wasn't just a depends on who I'm in front of. I think about my friends that I was involved with that I had, outside of Renee, as just my boys and my bros, or you may have your girls, and they knew where I stood with Renee. I was making a public declaration of my intention with Renee as a boyfriend girlfriend, that we were moving towards something that was bigger than just a temporary engagement. Because you think about an engagement is just a formal agreement, a formal agreement of an intentional act that you're going to perform at a later stage in time. Well, when we were dating, I had made it known that this is somebody that I was looking to invest long term in. So when I think about that, and it wasn't a secret, I wasn't, and it was done by actions. When I wasn't with Renee and I was with my friends, they didn't see me pushing up on other girls. They didn't see me talking bad about Renee. They didn't see me doing things that of questionable character that would be contrary to the relationship and the things that I was doing when we were all together and around. Did something come to your
Yeah.
mind?
So the thing that came to my mind was I knew Gil was committed to me very early because he made I never asked him for money. He always took me to nice places. We always went to nice restaurants, and we also went to White Castles. We went to. It wasn't a money thing. But the thing that let me know that Gil was really committed to me was when I was in school. Gil took me to school. He drove me to school. He made sure I got to school. He put money in my purse to make sure I had money for lunch. I didn't ask him.
She wasn't gonna ask me,
I
y'all.
wasn't gonna ask him.
Pride.
And yeah, I was
Stomach
the three
growling,
P's.
knowing stomach gonna be growling like later on, but sitting there drinking water for lunch. But I'm sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
but it was a matter. Those are the little things that he did to let me know, and he always kept his word. And everyone when they met me, they welcomed me. They met me with open arms. It was never someone like, oh, who is that? You know, and so those are just little things you should be paying attention to know, because I love what you said, your words and your actions.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about it. I was making the video for my birthday. Thanks for all the birthday love. I love you guys. Thank you so much. But I was looking at it, and the 5 love languages. My love language is words of affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm getting older, I want your words and your actions to line up,
Oh yeah.
because your words without actions that support it is just, it's not as beneficial. And so I think that you have to look at, when people's words and their actions don't line up, which one of them are not telling you the truth.
Right. And you think about it, and sometimes that's a hard message to take.
Mm-hmm.
It may not even be communicated verbally, but it may be something that is being shown in their actions.
Right.
If I was to take Renee around my friends and they had no idea she even existed, does that mean I have a commitment to her?
It's like,
Or if it's a surprise to them of who am I bringing around, or let's just say they call her by the wrong name, that is probably going to cause a problem with us. I don't know about you guys, but even when I was dating, I found it challenging to even try to even date multiple people.
yeah, because his family like me. They're like, is that Renee? Where Renee at?
One, they're gonna bust you out. They're gonna be like, "Oh Lord," they're gonna be comparing. But it was just more frustrating, and at a younger age, you may try that, but because you're still trying to figure out life,
Yeah.
and you're still trying to figure out what you like and what you don't like. And that's understandable. But later in life, if you're still doing those same types of things, you may want to question: do you have commitment issues?
Yes. And that's a really important point.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have commitment issues, it really is not so much about the person. Because I believe, in people say it, that men will choose the right woman at the right time. But some men really do struggle, and women struggle with commitment. And it goes back to what Ambassador said. Is Christ the center of your life? When we were younger, we weren't saved, we didn't know the Lord, but I still had integrity. Gil still had integrity. And so when you struggle with commitments, that's one of those things you need to sit down with yourself and say, well, why do I struggle with commitment? Is it because of the way I was raised? Was it because maybe my parents disappointed me? Is it because they weren't committed? And so this whole journey has to be about you, not just looking at the other person, but really looking at yourself and understanding that commitment and engagement are not the same thing. One leads to the other.
Yeah.
But it's not putting the cart before the horse. Don't get engaged before you know you're committed, because engagement is not something, and the engagement is not going to increase the commitment. The engagement could make it more obvious that there is no commitment, because you see couples when they're just trying to plan the wedding, and if you can get mad at each other over wedding cake, and it can make you question your relationship, you might not have the commitment established the way it should be.
Oh yeah, and that's important, because you think about it, engagement is just nothing more than a reflection of the commitment. That's how it should be. So if you find that you're getting engaged without going through some of the things that we already listed at the very beginning, it's are you all in? Have you emotional connection with each other? Do you really find that it's a challenge for you to decide or understand we are building something here? We're not just dating for fun. We're trying to move towards a certain point in our relationship, towards a long-term, permanent commitment to each other. So put it in the chat if you've thought about some of the things. The lists that we usually list here, these are just a sampling of things. There's always going to be multiple
And
other
exhaustive.
things, that's going to show you a commitment level. What have you found that are some of the things that you find identifies a true commitment to the person that you're with? I love it in the vows. They always say for good or for bad. It's easy to be with someone when they have everything
better or
going
for
for them, whether it's financial, whether it's physical, whether it's spiritual, whether it's emotional, all those things going for them, and they are a good catch, so to speak. But what happens when sickness comes along,
death,
or challenges
loss.
happen with finances, or all those things? Are you still committed to that person, or was it something that really wasn't built on a real foundation? That kind of goes into that engagement side, where you are making a commitment based on the current situation and the current circumstance, as long as it's favorable. If it's not favorable and you find yourself vacillating between, am I going to be here for the long haul or am I
Yeah.
gone? That's something that you have to think about.
And one of the things that I love that there's scriptures in the book, and there's
Mm-hmm.
also places for you to write because it's important. Writing, journaling is a very healthy, it's very therapeutic,
Mm-hmm.
and it really helps you to see where you are right now, and then later on you go back and look, it's like, man, I can't believe I felt that way. So the reason why this book is important to us is, and we talked about it, we asked you guys, I don't know if you guys heard it because we had some issues with the sound. One of the things we're challenging you all to do is to create your own small group
Mm-hmm.
with this book, to gather some friends around it together
To go through it.
and to go through it.
Use it as a guide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
use it as a guide. There's scriptures in here, there's places to write. But it's just important that you, while this is beautiful, we love you all and we love connecting with you all this way. If you see the video, we have people that we are really doing life with in person, and everyone needs to have some place where they are known and someone, you know them and they know you. That is an important part. That was the last chapter, was about building community. Building community, while this is a form of community, we still encourage you to get the book and create your own community. If you wanted to create a small group with the book, we'll give you a discount on buying. If you buy more than 2 books, we'll give you a discount on the book, because we want to encourage you to create a community around something that's important, because there are a lot of people who are struggling with the same things that you're struggling with. They have the same questions. And one of the things that's really dangerous about growth is isolation, staying alone. It's the holiday season, and if you're really up, it makes you really up. If you're really down, it makes you really down. So we really want to provide a safe place for you to build community around something. You may not feel like you're a teacher, or you may not feel like you're a facilitator, but if you have a book that you can sit around and talk about and ask questions and build community around, it'll really help you. So we're asking you to do that for the Singles Blueprint, and also for our Marital Code to Oneness for couples, because it's really important that you have someone that you can touch and they can touch you. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, when you're struggling or you're having a difficult time, you have someone that you can reach out to.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of laid the one of the principles that we like to talk about was, how do you get to the commitment side?
Yeah.
From the engagement side, what are some of the things, some of the practical things that you can do to show that you're working towards a commitment? And Renee mentioned one of them already, which is mentors and community.
Yeah.
Have people around you that are doing what you're trying to do. They may not be married yet, but they may be in a good relationship. It's even better if you are with someone that you can model after, you can talk to, you can go to. They are called mentors. We did one of the things about that, a mentor versus someone who's a coach. Well, when you have a mentor, this is a person that is partnering in with you throughout life. They're not just giving you a bunch of how to do's like a coach can do and say, this is what you need to change, this is what you need to correct or whatever. This is what mentors actually do. And especially if you win someone who's been together for a long time, especially if they're married, if that's what you're moving towards and what you want to move towards, get with them, talk to them, let them know what you're trying to do, because that's the other part of this, accountability. You want to talk a little bit about accountability in relationships?
And I think that especially in in this day and time, accountability is something that is frowned upon. We all need to. I think about when kids are little. When we were little, if I ran across somebody's jet grass, Miss Johnson would get me, Miss Jackson would get me, my mama would get me, and my daddy would get me. Well, now it's a little bit different, but we have to be wise enough to know that we need to be accountable to God and to someone else. And so if you're single and you're saying, okay, I really want to get on this path towards marriage, then I need to find someone I can be accountable to, that I can share when I'm having struggles, when I'm having areas where I feel like, and showing you things, because sometimes there's things that you do that you don't realize are unhealthy because you've been doing it for so long. And so get into a community with other people who are trying to be on the path you're on, so that you can see what healthy looks like. If everybody around you is in the same position you're in and they're doing the same thing and it's not what you want to do, get into community so you can be accountable to God and to someone else, so you can grow and actually become the best version of yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And how do you become that? When you have to communicate.
Yeah.
That's another one when it comes to actually building a commitment with someone in their relationship. This is the foundational principles that we're sharing with you right now, is Communication. Everybody talks about it. Everybody always says communicate, communicate, communicate. If you want to have a good, successful relationship or marriage, you got to learn to communicate. Well, there's aspects to communication that you need to be aware of. We'll give you one simple one, and we've said it multiple times over
Yeah.
multiple videos out there.
Videos.
You got to be hot. Why don't you explain to them what we talk about when
Yeah.
we say being hot, what
Yeah.
that really means about
It's not
communication?
looking good. It's being honest, open, and transparent. So you're going to be honest with yourself about the areas that you need to grow and change. You're going to be open with the other person. You're going to be open to them giving you feedback. You're going to be open with just yourself and sharing things. And you're going to be transparent. You're going to be transparent. You're going to tell them things that they may not ask you. Because it's one thing to tell me, for me to tell you what you already know.
Right.
But transparency is another level of being vulnerable because you're sharing with them the things that they wouldn't automatically know.
You know, and that's something that you said that's so important, that vulnerability. Vulnerability is and transparency goes hand in hand. If you find that you feel like you can't tell this person something, whether it's an experience or something that happened to you or that you were involved with that may not be good, well, guess what? Do you want to make a commitment to someone that they have secrets?
Yeah.
Secrets is something that will destroy any
And
relationship.
I always say, you don't keep secrets, your secrets keep you. Because you're only going to be as free and have as much liberty as someone, like I said, you're known and you know them and they know you. You have to be able, if you're talking about making a commitment to someone, you want them to make a commitment to the real you. You don't want to give them a false sense of who you are and then they commit to you and then they find out, oh, I didn't know that. So in order for someone to make a genuine, healthy commitment, it has to be to the whole you, to all of you, not just the good, but the bad, the ugly, your growth areas, and your strengths.
And you'll find that that person will be probably more understanding because you decided to share that vulnerability part, which is a
Transparent.
part of growing in your relationship. That's where one of the other things in the relationship that comes in that we'll mention at the end because it's so important. It's the most important, we believe, when it comes to it. But a part of the communication is shared goals, visions, and dreams that we talked about. That's also a part of the transparency and the openness that I think about when Renee and I were dating. We made those goals and visions that we had not only individually. That's where the challenge I think comes in. When you're a single person,
Yeah.
you've been doing your own thing your own way for a long time, and then all of a sudden you get with this other person. There is a merging
Merger. Yeah.
that has to come together for you to take those goals, dreams, and visions and blend them together to come up with a new one. You know, it may be something as simple as, you know, whose career is taking priority. Maybe you're in a form of education that's going to pay dividends later on in life and somebody has to take a back step. Is that something you are willing to do?
Yeah.
Well, you have to talk about it now before you make that commitment. Go ahead.
Yeah, because for me, I was a hairstylist and Gil was in the military. And so we made a decision before he went to the military, we would never allow money to be more important than our relationship. And so because my career was very fluid and I could go anywhere, I chose to take a back seat to his career. But by doing that, it always opened doors for us, for me, for business, because I was willing to submit to and surrender to what God was doing with him.
And is that, I'm looking at Guido Planet. I think that's what it says, but I got like the question in. And by all means, if you got questions, throw them in
Put
the
them in
chat.
the chat. We'll answer.
Even especially if it's in line with what we're talking about. And this kind of, I think, it says, how are you able to make your wife accept accountability for her wrongdoings without blowing up your marriage? I need help. We all need help. And that's exactly why we are doing these types of live videos, not just for entertainment value, but something that you can actually take and go away with and say, you know what? These are just suggestions that we are offering that based on our experience of being together for 36 years. Is that something you want to answer first and then I'll jump in?
Okay, I'll go first. You can't make someone else take accountability for their behavior. One of the things we always say, I am responsible for me and my actions, and Gil is responsible for him and his actions. I can come to him and say, hey, babe, this is a concern I have. I'm concerned about something that I see going on with you. Is there something I can do to help you? But for me to come and tell him, you know, you always do this and you get on my nerves and you messing us up. It's all about the approach. It's understanding that you can always bring your concern. I can always bring my concerns to Gil, but it's not my job to be the Holy Spirit. It's not my job to be his parent. It's not my job to try to control him, but I can always come to him and tell him what my need is.
And like you said there, it is a dangerous question, but when you have built a good foundation and a commitment with the person, I believe you can come to them, even if you're in a down state right now in the relationship. One thing that Renee and I has always strive to do is be honest, hot, honest, open, and transparent with each other, good and bad. So when it comes to that, for me, it was all about accountability and taking responsibility for my actions. Renee kind of mentioned it. I can only do what I can do. One of the first marriage classes we went to when we first got married, it was one simple statement that I took away from there that has always been kind of a guiding line for me is if my wife has done something that I'm not pleased about, let's just use it as an example. I'm the one that has the problem. I used something simple as loading the dishwasher. I'm not making light of this because this can cause a real problem. Renee will take everything and put it in the dishwasher, and it don't matter where it goes as long as it fits. And she'll just load it and ready run with it. Well, that drives me nuts, y'all. You know, where's my analytical engineering background and focus on that? Everything has a place and it was designed to work a certain way if you do it that way. The point is Renee has the problem or do I have the problem with something? I have the problem. So I can either bring it to her and say, Renee, babe, I got a problem. When you load the dishwasher, it makes it challenging because the dishes don't get clean and all that kind of stuff. Well, what do I do to help the problem or help the situation or help this what's the solution that I'm coming with? Well, I say, you know what? Don't load the dishwasher. I'll do it because I'm the one that has the problem with it. She ain't got no problem with not loading the dishwasher because she'll just like carry on. Well, I'm going to load it because it is something that bothers me. All I can do is take ownership for it, how it affects me. I bring it to her. I bring my concerns to Renee and leave it up to her to address it, whether it's something as simple as the dishwasher or something as major as a major ordeal or a major situation.
And I think it's important to pray, always to pray. When there are things that Gil did that bothered me, I would pray about it first and ask myself what was really bothering me so I could really articulate. Like you said, I have a problem. I have a problem when you don't kiss me before you leave. It makes me feel like you're not paying me any attention. So you pray, and so you know what you really what's really bothering you. But it's always using I statements, and if that's something you guys haven't been taught how to do, that may be a problem too. So it's learning how to talk to your spouse in a way where it's not you're telling them they need to do something different, but it's that I need something from you.
Yeah.
Or we need to do something different. Does that help at all?
Yeah, I hope it does. But because you know, as I think about it, it's always important for you to take the part of the ownership and not focus on the symptom of something that's a bigger issue. A lot of times you have to focus on what is the real root problem of what's really going on between us. Because it's not just a Renee problem, it's not just a Gil problem, it's a us problem. And if we both have a position of there's something that we're not addressing, it kind of goes back to that first thing that we talked about, or second thing, which was a communication. Maybe we didn't talk about some of the things that's really going on with us, and we're focusing on the symptom of what's really going on and not really addressing the root cause of it. It could be something as major as infidelity that has happened in the past that has eroded the trust, or it could be something as simple as the dishwasher that I'm talking about. It's a matter of you knowing and owning and understanding what is it in our relationship that I believe is the issue, and bring that to her as an ideal.
Yeah, and I think something that's important to understand, like some simple just guidelines that we practice as a couple. I know he has my back and he's always going to be there. He's going to always love me and care for me. Even when he's doing something I don't like, or even when he says something I don't like, I automatically charge it to his head and not his heart. We do the sandwich. 2 positive things and 1 negative thing. even if I say something I have a problem with, I try to start off with, something positive, the problem, and then something else positive. Because people are more likely to receive a correction depending on how it's
Addressed.
presented,
Yep.
how it's presented to them.
Yep. Exactly. So we hope that answers your question,
And
but
if
we
it
want to
didn't,
finish up there because we only got about 15 minutes left or less. We want to open it up for questions at the end. But the last couple ones that we wanted to address is showing appreciation and gratitude for the relationship that you have. Even if it's in a bad state that you're in, you have to think about it. Why did you actually get joined with this person in the beginning? It's harder to remember the good things when you're going through some challenging times, but there are good times that you have to focus on when you're in need. We always talk about if you haven't been making positive deposits in Renee, if I haven't been doing that along the line of our relationship, how can I expect to be able to make a withdrawal when challenges come? That is something that is going to be
yeah.
a challenge for anybody if you haven't really fed into each other.
Yeah. And it's important to understand the Bible says whatever things are good and pure and lovely and of good report. I'm not saying that you just had this rose colored glasses. I think that you have to understand that marriage is a lifelong commitment where you're deciding to spend the rest of your life with somebody who's not like you, who is, going to have their own goals and dreams. And it's just how do I appreciate and celebrate? And it's really hard to be negative when you have gratitude. Gratitude is such a great way to bring life and purpose into relationships, because if you can find something to be grateful for and you can find something to celebrate the person for, they're more likely to receive a critique if you're making sure you're making those positive deposits. And it's not just always you telling me, because in the beginning of our relationship, I'm a direct communicator. I was constantly telling Gil, you need to do this and you need to do that. And he was like, you make me feel like I'm broke. And I was like, wow, how do I do? What do I need to do different? And so that's when we started learning that, using I statements, using the sandwich, being encouraging, making sure that you're not just pointing out the negative, but that you're just as quick to point out the positive and not just the negative.
Absolutely. And I love what you put there. And that's time. I just say time. The great thing about marriage is letting go of your ego and doing the things that don't learn to sacrifice for the person you love. Absolutely. That is definitely one thing, because that kind of spills over into the other thing that you can do to build on the commitment side of how do you support each other? It's easy to support someone when, like we said earlier, when everything is going good. But when everything is going, maybe you hit a bump in the road and things get a little bit more challenging. Or what happens when you have to reprioritize the vocations? I'll just use that because it's always something that most couples go through a lot when it's time of experience. Well, you have to support each other in the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And what does that actually look like? That actually look like taking actual practical steps to help them fulfill their dream and their goal and their aspiration, even if yours have to take a back seat a little bit.
I think about something as simple as like when we moved to San Antonio. I mean, it was challenging. We had a lot of, we called them wild cards. And when one person is already down and they're already having a hard time, and like I can tell when Gil was stressed out, because Gil doesn't like a lot of moving parts. He doesn't like a lot of change. So when that's going on with him, I am going to encourage him. I'm going to speak positive things to him. I'm going to affirm him. I'm not going to add to his already heavy plate. So if you know that someone is already struggling and they're already having a difficult time, the way you support them is by encouraging them. Sometimes it's just a hug, or it's a kiss, or I'm proud of you, you're doing a good job, or I see you. Those things really do make a big
Absolutely.
difference, because if you can't just correct someone and not encourage them. You have to be able to do both.
Yeah, and another one when it comes to that is trustworthiness and reliability. That is something that you want, that ride or die person. You want that person who's going to have your back, like you said here, Gibo, as far as making a commitment to this person that no matter what, you're going to be there long term. Sometimes it's challenging. We understand that.
Yeah.
Every relationship is, but you will have to defend, just like you said, defending her when everything is going kind of sideways and crazy. It's easy when things are going good. It's challenging when things get a little bit more difficult. And that's where you have to be how reliable are you with that person? How trustworthy are you with that person to support the things that they're going through and what they may be experiencing and what they actually may be doing?
And a part of being trustworthy is when Gil shares things to me with me that are that make him feel unsafe and that make him feel
Vulnerable.
vulnerable. That's not something I share with someone else.
Not even your girlfriends.
No, not even your children, not even your parents. Because a
Nobody.
part of building that trust is to know that he knows I'm a safe place for him. To catch him when he falls, not to catch him in a fall. There's a difference between I caught you and I caught you. We have to be a safe place for people to land, and that's a part of that, building relationships that are enjoyable for both people. And so being trustworthy, so the topic we're talking about today is engagement or commitment, which
Yeah.
comes first. And so it's important that we understand that commitment has to come first, and commitment is not just your words, it's your actions and your words. And it's all these things that build and show the other person they can trust you and be committed to you.
And then the last thing we'll bring up, I said I wanted to save it to the very end because we believe it is the most important, is part of building in commitment is forgiveness and understanding.
Yeah.
That it will be the saving grace for when things are really challenging, they are beyond your skill set, or when you feel like you have no idea what to do. When you practice forgiveness with someone, especially the person that you actually love the most in this world, there's a lot that you can overcome.
Yeah.
We did a teaching on forgiveness that Renee has been listening to
Oh, yes, he's
for
been- woo.
multiple times. That we
Yes.
did it, how long ago was it?
3 years ago.
About 3 years ago at a church when we were in Alabama. And we've done so many videos that I forgot about the exact one. I just heard my voice and I was like, what's that? And she was like, oh, I was watching this video about it, because the forgiveness side is something that we have to forgive just as we've been forgiven.
Forgiveness is something we have to practice every single day. And sometimes the person that we have the hardest time to forgive is ourself. And so that being said, our relationship with Christ gives us the ability to forgive. And we need to be asking him for forgiveness, because when we can't forgive other people, God can't forgive us. And so forgiveness is the key to being able to have a relationship that is God honoring, fulfilling, and something that you can enjoy and share with other people, because it's something attractive about forgiveness. It draws people to you, and it makes you a place that people want to come to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I see the comments coming here because that's where forgiveness is your strength.
It is.
It's not a weakness. When you are exercising that strength, just as we've been forgiven, because I'm sure there's things that we've all done in our relationship that may not have been the best. And especially if hopefully you're not taking score on how big mine is versus how big yours is, because there are times when Renee has forgiven me about stuff that it's been a benefit. It's something that I appreciate, that we built that type of relationship, that we understand each other enough to know that we are never the sum total of one instance.
Yes. Good or bad.
If you try to keep score or take account of things that have happened over 35 years, 36 years of dating and marriage.
It's 38, 39.
Well, 39 of dating and 36 this year of marriage, that you have probably forgotten more than you've actually done.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind when you talk about your relationship and the commitment and being there for each other. And we hope that you actually got something out of the video.
Yeah,
we
love
got some
y'all.
other ones there. We appreciate you guys coming and hanging out
Thank
with us
you
on the
so
Saturday.
much.
We know there's tons of other things you actually can be doing.
So celebrate yourself. Give yourself a round of applause, because you made an investment in your relationship by just watching, by listening, by sharing. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. When you subscribe to our channel, you help them to know that other people would like to listen to this. It helps them to refer it to other people. So if you have not subscribed, please subscribe. Turn on the bell notification. We go live every Saturday. On the 20th of December, we are not going to go live because we're going to be celebrating Christmas with our family.
That and our anniversary.
Yeah, anniversary of 20.
It's on the 28th.
Yeah, so we have next week. We'll go live.
One more week. Yep.
We'll go live one more week for Christmas. Before Christmas.
Then take a break.
Then we're gonna have 2 weeks off, And we love you guys, and we'll start again in January. We want everyone to do the small group. Get your books. Send me an email, help@richrelationshiprefuge.com, and I'll give you a discount link. So if you want to buy more than one book, you can get them at a discount. We appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate you guys sharing this video. We appreciate your comments. We appreciate your investment in time, and we love you guys so much.
So we just plant seeds. So hopefully they will take root and ground it. And if we've been talking about the book, even if you don't look at the book or buy the book, go check out the videos, because we
have
put a lot of the
videos.
content out there. We are just trying to plant seeds in others to help you grow the kind of relationship you want. So remember, guys, we are stronger together.
And you are more than enough, and we love you, and we'll see you guys next week at 12 noon. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to put them in the comments or send us an email, help@richrelationshiprefuge.com. We're here. We want to help you. We want to serve you. And so thank you so much for being with us, and share this video with your family.
Love you guys.
And
We'll
friends.
see y'all next week.
See you next week.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.